Hello friends, welcome to our class. Now we are going to start class 26. The formation of Indian National Congress INM. Safety valve theory held that the AO Hume and Dufresne 1884 to 1888 set up the INC with the moderate to discuss the disuse the tension. Therefore, the preventing 1857 revolt. The origin of the safety valve theory traces back to the biography of A.O. Holmes and Wedderburn. Why safety valve theory false? First, seven volume of the secret report from the sadhus to the whom were never found. Also, Dufresne never took the home seriously. Home seriously. In addition to the that, hated the moderate, and did not consider them mass leader. He did not like INC formation, as he feared a Irish-like home rule movement by INM. Second, we were no on the path of the setting of the Indian organization. Pre-INC political activities were on the rise. Plus, even the British Indian Association 1851 tried opening the branches in the Bombay and Madras. Also, the Native Press Association, set up in the Surendranath Banerjee as president in the 1877 Imperial Darbar, was all Indian organization which decided to meet annually. Plus, Surendranath Banerjee Indian Association 1876 held a national conference in 1883 in Calcutta. Another two held in 1885. National Fund set up National Fund set up 1885 for an election campaign in favor of the liberal candidates fighting British parliamentary election. Third, even if Hume and Dufresne wanted to use the INC as a safety value, moderates used Hume as a lightning conductor. As purely an all India and all Indian organization don't have been allowed by the British. Also, whom overcome differences among regional leaders. 4. In the biography, Wedderburn Wedderburn wrote so because he wanted whom to viewed as a patriot in the Britain. Also, Hume wanted a strong opposition in India as he was liberal, moderate. The ideology of moderate. First, the 20 years of INC was the moderate phase of the Indian national movement. Moderates believed in the constitutionalism, that is a strong and the good state that provides a mechanism for the grievances redressal. They know that the British was exploitative, but believed it can modernize India if the British pressurized. They believed in the providence goodness of the British rule. Moderate did not believe Indians were ready for self rule. Therefore, their goal was the limited self government to Indians within the British Empire. They never even thought about the full independence. They were the secular and the believed in the Western capitalism. They believed Western capitalism will modernize India and they believed in national unity. Swaraj. The first concept of Swaraj indicates the control of Indians over the state. This includes limited self-government and self-government. The limited self-government means the partnership between Indians and Britishers over control of the state. The limited self-government was the goal of moderates and self-government within the British was the goal of extremists. Purna Swaraj was the goal of young INC leaders in the 1920s like Bose, Nehru, Patel, etc. Therefore, the extremists had the faith in the Indians, while moderates did not believe that Indians were the ready for self-rule. This was the endorsed as many believed that Indians were not ready to rule India. Self-government further can means either self-government within the British government and the full self-government Purna Swaraj. Self-government within the British government means dominion status. Dominion status means the maximum control that can be given without the colony leaving the country. Dominion status is similar to the subsidiary alliance with the British. Defense, foreign affairs, and communication with the British rest with the India. The second concept of Swaraj indicate the rules of each Indians, which means a stateless society. Gandhiji wanted enlightened anarchy. He wanted not law but religion as the source of modern morality. He wanted a positive role of religion in governance. Indian Council Act 1861 moderate demand was to aimed the Indian Council Act of 1861 to give limited self-governments. Reason for Indian Council Act 1861 post 1857 British wanted to support the Indian Rajas and Jamindars. Provisions. The Viceroy's Council converted into the ILC, Imperial Legislative Council, and EVC, Viceroy Executive Council / Imperial Executive Council. The separate legislature and executive bodies both were under Viceroy. Therefore was the no separation of power at the level of the Viceroy. PLC Provincial Legislative Council and Governors Executive Council in provisions. Therefore, ILC Imperial Legislative Council and PLC Provincial Legislative Council were established by the Indian Council Act 1861. Viceroy could nominate 6 to 12 laws member to ILC of which at the least half must non-officials. Therefore, the first time Indians could be included in lawmaking. Indian Council Act therefore introduced a foreign of popular Indians limits. It was the first attempt at the representative character of the governance. Representative character of governance, as some Indians first time could be nominated. the legislative branch of the state. In 1862, three Indians were nominated by Imperial Legislative Council: Maharaja of Patiala, Raja of Banaras, and Sir Dinkar Rao, full elites. Until 1892, mostly zamindars, moneylenders from the British Indian Association were nominated, along with the British businessmen. Overall, 45 Indians were nominated from 1861 to 92. All discussion by the Imperial Legislative Council without prior approval of Viceroy. No discussion of the action of the administration. Prior approval of Viceroy for the introduction of bills. Viceroy had the veto power over the bills. Therefore, Imperial Legislative Council of Indians Council Act of 1861 was not a parliament, no control over the executives. Later link powers of the Duma after October Manifesto. At 1905, after Russian Revolution 1905, executives First, first portfolio system of 1859 legally recognized a allocation of department to the member/minister of the Viceroy Executive Councils. The final decision over the department to be this ministers. Second, power of the law making by ordinance through the Viceroy and a special circumstance life of 6 months. The ordinance is the law making power given to the executive in the case of the urgency when the legislature is not in the session. Urgency. Third, Viceroy got the power create the new provinces and the appointed lieutenant governor. I Imperial Legislative Council Indian Council Act 1861 began decentralization between the center and provinces. As centralization began with the Regulating Act of 1773 plus the Pict in 1833. Indian Council Act 1861 restored legislative power and Bombay and Madras other provinces. It ensured the government of movement of the power from the viceroy to the governor. This January, this journey of the federalism. Federalism means the power to a state began. The new legislative council was proposed in Bengal, northwest frontier provinces, and Punjab. After the Charter Act of 1853, Dalhousie created the post of LG Bengal to address his the burden and a ruler of British India as well as Bengal. Power to Viceroy to frame the rules, order for thus conduct the businesses and all councils, Imperial Legislative Council and Provincial Legislative Council. In provinces, provisions similar to the ILC and non-official member in the PLCs to be appointed by the Viceroy only. Prior approval of the Viceroy is needed for the introduction of some bills in PLCs. PLC did not have the separate budget making powers. Legislature. It can consist of officials and non-official. A non-officials member can be either nominated or elected. Non-officials member can be Indians or Britishers. Elected members can be directly or indirectly elected. Uh, Demands for moderates increase the size of ILC and PLC. Bring the elected majority and not to direct majority. Greater power to ILC and PLC. Indianization of services. Decrease the military expenditure. They also share the expenditure between India and British, as the army was used not just for the protection of India but also the rest of the British Empire. Have a volunteer army. Example, allow Indians to apply and join. Tribal by jury. Trial by jury. Remove Arms Act 1878. Decrease land revenue. Extend the permanent settlement 1793 to area outside Bengal, as in it land revenue can't be increased. End salt tax linked civil disobedience movement of Mahatma Gandhi and the exploitation of indentured laborers. What is meaning of indentured labor? Contractual laborers of the Assam tea garden link Mahatma Gandhi's in South Africa. Abolish Indian Council so that the Secretary of State for India can function freely. Result: none of the demand of moderates was met. Weakness of the moderates. First, uneven representation, total exclusion of non-elites. Now, therefore, their comes of the representing Indians was weak. INC was mainly dominated upper caste, Hindus, middle class, men, and Bengalis, Marathis, and Tamilians. Therefore, not truly representatives. Second, due to their social background, they did not take up the anti-Jamindar issues and were pro-capitalistics. The hurt there the support basis. They had a limited goal of limited self-government. Therefore, did not want the end of the British rule, as they believed that British rule will modernize India. For they did not believe Indians were ready for self-government because of the loss spared of Western education. 5. Even their unlimited long-term goal was dominion status, self-government on the alliance of Canada, Australia and full British citizenship. 6. Had the moderates method of the sending petition, passing resolution, writing articles and making speech and councils work, and did not the create enough pressure on Britishers. 7. They developed rich culture of the debates but no focus on mass struggle. That is, no focus on involving the common man. 8. 1886 under the Dadabhai Nauroji, INC decided to not take up the social issue like casteism, communalism, peasant and working class interest. They thought it might hurt the unity among Indians. 9. They wanted gradual reforms, not radical reform. 10. They were part-time politicians. Not most of them had the lucrative legal practices and other professions. Uh, 11. INC was not a party but a 3 days annual function without any organizational structure at the provincial and local levels. Overall, they had mild goals and the mild methods. Extremist cities criticized their the methods as a policy of the mendicancy beginnings. There, the constitutional agitation did not create any pressure, and no demand for theirs there was met. Thank you very much.